In today's world of aftermarket parts, there's an overwhelming amount of options when it comes to modifying your car. But what's the most cost-effective mod when it comes to handling? It should be obvious that a good set of tires will drastically improve any car. But what next? In this video, we'll be talking about sway bars, which are one of the easiest and best mods you can do to improve your car's handling. First, we'll talk about what they do and how they work, and then we'll be installing a set on my NB Miata. So let's get into it. Sway bars are sometimes referred to as anti-roll bars, which in my opinion is a much more fitting name. They connect the left and right sides of your car's suspension, and therefore determine roll stiffness. When your car is driving straight, the bar rotates in its bushings and has zero effect on handling. However, in a cornering situation, one side of your suspension will compress while the other will droop. In this case, the sway bar will be put under torsion, or be forced to twist. Naturally, the bar will resist twisting and transfer load between the two sides of your suspension, which results in less body roll than if there were no sway bar installed. So why do we care about body roll anyway? Body roll has minimal effect on weight transfer. This is really important to remember. Instead, we need to take a look at what our tires are doing. The squarish section of tire actually touching the road is known as our contact patch. In simple terms, a larger contact patch will generate more grip because there is more surface area of tire touching the road. When the body of a car rolls in a corner, the camber of the tires will change. The body will roll to the outside of the corner, which can force the outside tires towards or even into positive camber. This means we end up with a smaller contact patch and less grip. Most race cars have aggressive alignments with more camber than you'd see on a street car to help counteract this. While a proper alignment helps, we still need to limit body roll to keep as large of a tire contact patch as we can. Stiffer sway bars will help us achieve this. Now that we know how sway bars work and why we want them, let's talk about the effects of sway bar size. From the factory, sway bars are sized to provide a more tame and comfortable ride. If you want more precise handling in your car, you'll generally need to get a larger sway bar. A larger diameter sway bar will be stiffer and more resistant to body roll, but there is a happy medium here. Go with too large of a sway bar, and you'll actually have enough stiffness to lift a wheel in a corner, leading to less tire contact patch and less grip. As a rule of thumb, too stiff of a front bar will cause understeer, and too stiff of a rear bar will cause oversteer. A lot of bars also advertise themselves as adjustable, so what does that mean? On most aftermarket sway bars, you'll notice multiple mounting holes on each end. If you connect your Endlinks to the outermost holes, the sway bar will behave as if it were softer than if you connect your Endlinks to the innermost holes, which is the stiffest setting. All you're doing is changing the effective lever arm length of the bar. Now that we know how sway bars work, let's take a look at the bars I got for my car. For my Miata, I went with a sway bar kit from Super Miata, which includes a Racing Beat 1 1/8 inch outer diameter front bar and a 14mm outer diameter rear bar. I'll be running these bars with a set of Super Miata Zeta coilovers, with an 800-pound spring rate in the front and a 500-pound spring rate in the rear. Also included in the sway bar kit are Racing Beat reinforcement blocks for the front mounting points, along with bushings and grease for both bars. Finishing everything off, we'll be using Flying Miata adjustable Endlinks. It's a good idea to make sure you get adjustable Endlinks with any aftermarket sway bar, so that you can eliminate any preload on the bars. More on that later. Alright, that's enough talking, so let's go ahead and get the bars installed. As always, you'll have a much easier time with this job if you spray PB Blaster on all your bolts a couple days in advance. This will give it time to work on any rust and debris that could put up a fight when you go to loosen the bolts. The first thing we need to do is remove the front sway bar. Start by disconnecting your Endlinks. If you're lucky, you'll be able to stop the threaded ends from turning with an Allen key while you loosen the nuts with a wrench. The more likely scenario, though, is that everything will be rust welded together, and you'll have to cut them off. Take care not to cut into the tabs that hold the Endlink to the control arm. I used a Dremel to have a bit more precision, but any cutoff wheel or sawzall should do the trick. Next, remove the two bolts supporting the sway bar bushing brackets on each side. Then you can get under the car and carefully fish the bar out between whatever hoses and AC lines you might have in the way. I had a fairly easy time getting mine out going towards the driver's side of the car. Now we can slide in the new bar and rest it in place for the time being. One issue I noticed when I went to install the new front bushings is that they're actually a little bit too tall for the mounting brackets. To get them down to the right size, I lined them up inside the new brackets and drew a line roughly level to the top of the bracket and cut them down. Once you fix any quality issues with your bushings, you can grease the inside of them. You don't need too much, but it's better to be generous and just wipe off any excess that the bar squeezes out. Slip the bushings around the bar, and then put the mounting brackets back on top. Now we get into the fun part of dealing with the reinforcement blocks. Most cars won't need something like this, but they're a good idea if you have a Miata. The factory front mounts are known to flex when more load from a bigger bar is applied to them, so the purpose of these is to go between your factory mounts and the frame to increase the stiffness of the mount. Start by grabbing the new included bolts and a washer, and partially thread them into the mounting holes on the car. Then thread a nut on top of each of the bolts on the part that sticks through, with the flat side of the nut facing the top of the car. Spin the nuts down far enough that you can fit the reinforcement block over the bolts. Racing Beat includes 2 blocks. The one with the notch cut out is for the driver's side. Hand tighten everything enough that the blocks sit flush against your frame rails, with the nuts applying upward pressure to them. At this stage, just get everything in position and snug, but don't torque anything to its final value yet. Now you'll need to grab a measuring device of your choice to ensure the bar is even side to side. Measure from the outside of the bushing to the outside of the bar on both sides, and wiggle the bar as needed until you have it centered left to right. Once the bar is mounted and in place, install your new Endlinks. The trick with adjustable Endlinks is to attach the mounting points with the car in the air, but leave the adjustable part of the Endlink loose. Make sure before you put them on the car that the top and bottom ends have equal thread length pulled out. With the Endlinks attached but still loose, lower the car down to the ground and turn the turnbuckle both ways until you hit resistance. Twisting it clockwise and counterclockwise, you'll eventually find a middle point where the turnbuckle has no resistance. This is where you want to leave it. Once you've found that point, tighten the jam nuts to lock the turnbuckle in place. What you've just done is eliminated any preload that the bar would have been putting on the suspension, which could cause uneven handling. Now you can tighten and torque everything down. Make sure you torque your Endlinks with the car on the ground, then you can lift the car back up if needed to torque the sway bar mounts themselves. Once your mounts are tight, tighten up the nuts under the reinforcement blocks with an open-ended wrench. These are prone to backing off, so a little bit of blue Loctite is also a good idea here too. Moving on to the rear bar, it's pretty much the same process, but simpler, so we won't need to spend too much time going over it. We have no reinforcement blocks to worry about, so it's just a matter of removing the Endlinks, the mounts, and the bar, and then installing the new ones. Connect up and torque your Endlinks using the same process as the front to make sure you don't have any preload on the bar. And that's all there is to installing sway bars. Go for a drive and you'll instantly feel an improvement in the way your car handles a corner. Thanks for watching, and as always, if this video helped you out, feel free to give it a like and subscribe for more. Drop a comment with any questions or tips you have, and I'll catch you in the next one.